Massive foreclosure. We're going to be seeing more bankruptcy than ever before. Chrysler Buildings European co-owner files for bankruptcy. This is a terrible situation for investors. And let me elaborate this whole entire scenario for you. It's pretty freaky. So the Chrysler Building, this is a very iconic building. We all know it. This is a very old building, of course. And this is one of the historic landmarks of New York City. It's on top with like the Trans-America Bay building in San Francisco, and of course the Empire State Building in New York City. The Chrysler Building, not really sure why this company wanted a share of this, because it's actually on a plot of land that's not owned by the building itself. It's like a land lease. So the HOA fees are absolutely insanely high. So Chrysler Buildings European co-owner Cigna recently just declared bankruptcy on Wednesday. They tried a last-ditch attempt to secure fresh funding and new money from other investors. But other investors see Cigna as a liability due to the fact that they own a lot of office buildings, malls, and retail structures. This is going to be one of the biggest defaults in property real estate of the year, right? This is going to be Europe's property crash, and this will affect the US market as well. This is controlled by like an Austrian dude, Benko, and the group also is a co-owner of the Chrysler Building, and they will be handing over the Chrysler Building to whoever is in charge. They're either going to sell the shares or just give it back to the bank. Now, the debts amount to around 5 billion euros, which is 5.5 billion USD. This is a lot of money being affected here. You're going to be having 42 employees and almost 300 creditors impacted by the proceedings. This is not some small everyday defaults. At first, we all looked around into the real estate market for the US. A lot of buildings in San Francisco going default, like $700 million worth of hotels. You have a couple million here and there. You have 10, 20, 30 million sprinkled in different cities, but not like a whole entire real estate group that specializes in properties just suddenly defaulting. This is not a good sign, right? It's going to cause a domino effect because a lot of these buildings have loans with each other and with other small regional banks. If one collapses, it's usually a domino effect and it affects other companies as well. And Cigna Group also has a lot of money and a lot of shares that are purchased by a lot of American hedge funds and American banks. And especially some small banks have all their eggs in one basket, which is the commercial office sector, malls, and retail. There's some banks, for some reason, they don't invest in residential. They love investing in offices, and Cigna is the company to do so. Of course, Cigna, they started off with very humble beginnings. They started off with, of course, Benko starting with just a few apartments here and there and grown to a multi-billion-dollar real estate conglomerate, and they are now going bust. This is a scary situation. Right now, many people don't know the true impact of the scale because $5 billion in the real estate market, it's not incredibly big, right? It's going to consist of several malls, several skyscrapers, but the main factor is, what about the banks, right? The banks they have a lot of stake in these buildings. Individual investors have a lot of money in Cigna Group. Not to mention, the main Cigna Group, they're going to be losing a lot of money, and perhaps there's going to be lawsuits and investors who want their money back, and we're going to be seeing a flurry of activities, especially properties that will be sold. And it's not great considering that right now it's not just Cigna Group having trouble, it's also several other major landlords in the US and around the world. Office buildings right now makes up 43% of all foreclosure transactions in the second quarter, according to a CoStar analyst. This is not a good number, guys. Office buildings in the past, before the pandemic, is considered a very safe investment. Very little maintenance. You don't really have to have a bathroom in every single room. Office buildings are pretty simple. It's pretty cookie cutter. And the approvals of office buildings are generally very easy. Office buildings are generally also a lot cheaper, and you could also command very good rents, and our tenants usually stay for a very long time. Your tenants also don't really complain. It's generally big companies that go there for work. Office buildings used to be the GOAT. Now office buildings are junk properties. Nobody wants them. Office buildings foreclosures are at all-time high. And Cigna is just one of the big companies in the mix of all these different things that are going down the foreclosure drain. And it's not great considering when you have some of the AAA offices in the US getting a 50% discount. Now, I know I've talked about 201 Spear Street so many times on this channel, but I just want to talk about it again. 201 Spear Street is in a very good location in San Francisco. It's by no means in a bad part of town. I could say this is probably the best part of town because this condo building right next to it is selling 1-bedrooms for $2 million. So you kind of know that it's a high-end area. Now, the guys who bought this for $120 million back in the early 2000s recently sold it for $60 million, a 50% discount. And I don't know about you, but I'm definitely sure that $1 million today is worth so much less than $1 million in 2000. With inflation, money printing, and all this different stuff, $60 million, that's a terrible deal for this building. But they owe so much money. They don't make any cash in this building anymore. They have to sell it for dirt cheap prices. And this is very concerning for a lot of real estate companies like these, like Cigna, who needs to offload a lot of properties to raise capital and cash. And at first, let's say a building A is worth $100 million back in 2018. It may not be worth $100 million. Chances are it's going to be a lot cheaper if it's a mall, if it's a office building, or a residential tower in a iffy neighborhood. So we're seeing a lot of really odd scenarios being panned out. I thought the whole entire office thing wasn't as big, a couple foreclosures here and there, but now you have probably Europe's biggest, real estate tycoon that specializes in retail and commercial. They are going for foreclosure. They're filing for bankruptcy. It's done. A rude awakening for investors indeed. And if you look at this, even New York City. New York City is a famous location, #1 financial center. You'll never see New York City not get renters, right? It's so popular. But the office department in New York used to be so hot. Vacancies so low. Now the vacancies are headed towards a very high rate. Even New York can't escape the office building doom loop. And economists are warning that New York City office buildings values may fall more than 40%. Not the residential section, the office section. We're seeing Wall Street. If you go there at night, right, it's very empty. Even the day, you see less and less people every single month. Many buildings on Wall Street are pretty empty. It's heavily office, it's heavy corporate, but we're seeing a lot of people just working remote right now. Not to mention the U.S. labor job market, it's just loosening. Unemployment rate is sitting 3.9%. Used to be 3.3 just a few months ago. And then check this out. Commercial real estate loans increased despite office woes. Massive risk to banks, guys. Annual FDIC review finds they topped $3 trillion after rising in every region. I could make a whole separate video about this. It's very interesting and very concerning. This is also one of the reasons why a lot of very high-end investors, a lot of investors who invest in the safe department are now trying to offload as many commercial real estate properties as possible. They don't want these buildings. You go on LoopNet, you see these office buildings. They look fantastic. High-quality office buildings and high-quality districts. But the vacancies in these cities are heading towards 30-35%. San Francisco is a great example of the office department just simply dropping like crazy. So many tech workers are moving online. Charles Schwab is downsizing their office. TD Bank is firing 3,000 workers. You have companies, 1, moving online, 2, moving out of big cities, and 3, firing workers. So with all 3 things added up together, do you really think office buildings are going to flourish? Probably not. So we're going to be seeing even more domino effects, right? This is just the beginning, okay? Everyone was anticipating some guy, some major company to go bust. And it just so happens to be a European company. Well, let's see what happens, right? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of lawyers, a lot of crazy stuff happening in the next few weeks. This is the beginning of the real estate drama that we're all waiting for. Lots of crazy stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment below, like, comment, subscribe for more real estate news. We have a lot more coming.